What up, folks, and welcome to the Kyber Culture, episode 119, with myself, the Mandalorian, and the space pirate king himself, Garen Shard. Today we're just recapping the Mandalorian, chapter 21, The Pirate. So stick around, make sure to follow the Kyber Culture on all our socials. Links are in the description. If you like what you're listening to, please consider leaving a rating and review wherever you get podcasts. Spotify or Apple, we'd really appreciate it on there. But before, let's just catch up a little bit. Aaron, how you doing?
Not much different than the last time we caught up. Work's still a dumpster fire. Kind of feels like people are just like pouring gasoline into the fire, after this week. It's a whole lot, but I'll focus on the positives here. Got to see Mr. Beham. It was awesome. Just got an amazing lunch, talked a little nerd culture, and I'm just going to say this right now. I'm plugging it first. Beham might might have a comic book coming out. Yeah, maybe it takes 10 years, but I'm saying it first here.
Let him cook.
Let him cook, dude.
Let him cook. Beham's cooking up something.
We'll see. I'm just going to throw that out there. But no, it was great seeing both of them. But what about you, man?
I watched a couple new movies this week, so I'll talk about those for a little bit. Sunday, I saw John Wick 4. John Wick 4 is sublime, to say the least. So the first three movies were incredible action movies, but I think John Wick 4 is simply cinema. He took everything from the previous three installments and just upped the ante and took inspirations from older westerns and samurai films and just tossed it into this. How we we constantly talk about how the Mandalorian and Star Wars and Filoni always does the Japanese samurai and Western inspired stuff. That's
the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, Mando is the Western inspired character, and Ahsoka is probably gonna be closer to the samurai inspired stuff. But Chad Stahelski, the director of John Wick 4, he did all of that in John Wick 4. So I was just holy fuck, this is fucking amazing. And there is, light spoilers, there is a samurai duel in John Wick 4. And then there is a final Western duel, in the third act. And it's just fucking incredible. And they're just the commitment to the action choreography in John Wick 4. I honestly think it's probably the best action movie that I've ever seen. And it's probably honestly the best action movie that's ever been made. It is.
Just to interject here, because I haven't seen it yet, but I read something crazy. He only has I forget the number, but he has a crazy low amount of lines for the movie. He only has
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, he only has 169 lines or something, and the movie's 2 hours and 40 minutes long or something.
No, it's close to 3 hours long, and no, that sounds about right, because Keanu Reeves doesn't do a whole lot of talking in this. At least I think he probably talks the least in John Wick 4 compared to John Wick 1 through 3. But yeah, I highly recommend John Wick 4. It's interesting where they're taking the franchise. I won't spoil what happened in John Wick 4, but there is a prequel called The Continental. It's a prequel series that's going to be on Peacock, so I'll probably watch that. And then there's a spin-off movie coming out called Ballerina, starring Ana de Armas. I'm pretty sure Keanu Reeves is set to appear in that in some form. But yeah, man, John Wick 4, if you're a fan of the John Wick franchise, if you're a fan of action movies, this is well worth a watch. It's worth the 3 hours. See it on the biggest screen possible, IMAX or Dolby. Another movie I saw it yesterday, was the Dungeons and Dragons movie. I'll be honest with you, it is a blast. It kind of follows typical, it's kind of reminiscent of some Marvel movies. It's not a super unique storyline that you haven't seen before. It's a nice little family flick. I think if you take your family to see this, you take some kids with you, everyone will have fun. It just feels like a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, set in high fantasy type era. If you take Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings and you make it a little lighter, crack some jokes here and there, a little funny, just make it an enjoyable blockbuster. That's what Dungeons and Dragons is. It's just don't take it serious and you'll have fun with it. And there are some cool moments in there. I probably should have mentioned this at the top of when I started talking about the movie, but I don't know shit about Dungeons and Dragons. Never tried playing the game or anything like that. There are some things in there where, like, there was this one scene where one of the characters was talking about how, like, oh, like, you move forward a couple of spaces, then you have to make a lateral move, and then, you know, he's pretty much explaining the rules of the game, but to the characters. And I was like, oh, this is for sure a Dungeons and Dragons, like, actual board game thing. You know, like, you can only make a certain amount of moves. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Dungeons and Dragons, fun time, for sure. Other than that, though, that's really all I've been up to. John Wick 4 and Dungeons and Dragons. It's been a good time at the movies recently.
I always think it's crazy when a fourth movie of a series comes out and it's like, no, this is the best one yet.
I swear crazy. To God, I swear. Like,
no, I mean, I believe you.
The only reason why I have John Wick 1 before John Wick 4 is strictly on the fact that, okay, John Wick 1 is pretty much about a guy that, like, some fools killed his dog and now he's going on a fucking rampage to get revenge for his dog. And that's why I have it before. It's hilarious. But then you get into, like, all this lore and, like, all the backstory with, like, through, like, John Wick's 2 through 4. So that's it's crazy. But the commitment to the action and, yeah, it's just incredible filmmaking for John Wick 4.
But Dungeons and Dragons, like, how you were describing kind of, like, all, like, the coalescing and, like, the meshing of, like, all these worlds, like, you know, Game of Thrones, fantasy, you know, this is, like, what this is all about. It's, like, making a story from scratch and then having people, like, follow these rules, but you're making the rules, like, as it goes along. It's a very interesting game. I've never ever been a part of a, like,
campaign.
Yeah, I called it a match. Wow. If anybody's listening to this and they play Dungeons and Dragons, they'd probably slaughter me. But yeah, a campaign. Like, I mean, that's what it is. Like, it's just the people that actually played Dungeons and Dragons, like, they love all nerd culture. You know what I mean? And they bring it all to the table, literally to the table.
Yeah, no, there are definitely times in the movie where it literally looks like you're looking at a game board. Definitely a fun time. It's very accessible to, like, for someone like me that has never played the game. Like, you can enjoy it for what it is. I don't think I've ever talked to anybody that's actually into D&D. I'm pretty sure they're pretty satisfied with it as well. So
yeah,
it's good. You know, you get, like, normies like myself for the D&D world, and then you got, like, people that play the game. I would like to see more of it. Anywho, before we talk a little bit of news, let's first take a quick break for some ads. All right, and we're back. Just a couple news things to chat about real quick. Skeleton Crew. Picking up some interesting directors, to say the least. For one, the first director they announced for this was John Watts. And John Watts is most known for the MCU's Spider-Man trilogy. And then they also announced that the Daniels would be directing either one episode or a few episodes, or a couple. I don't know. But the Daniels are known for this year's most recent Best Picture winner, Everything Everywhere All at Once. So when I saw this, I fucking lost my shit. I was like, yes, let's fucking go. And then I think this was announced today or maybe like a couple days ago, but they announced that David Lowery would be directing an episode or a couple. Who knows what these guys are up to. But David Lowery, Aaron, you may not recognize his name, but we have talked about one of this guy's movies on the podcast before. Do you remember talking about The Green Knight?
Yes, dude, I do.
Skeleton Crew, I mean, for me, my hype level, we probably talked about this like multiple times, saying like there's just not much about Skeleton Crew that we really know, besides the fact that it stars Jude Law, and it is based around like a group of kids wandering their way throughout the Star Wars universe. And we don't know when this series really takes place, so it's kind of hard to like get super pumped up for it. But the fact that, like, you know, that we have John Watts, the Daniels, and David Lowery on, like, the fact that they want to sign on to do this is enough. Like, it sparks enough intrigue for me to really watch this series. But what do you think? Does I don't know, does directors really matter to you?
A little bit of yes, a little bit of no, because
I will note real quick that Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are executive producers on this.
and also to note on top of your note, I'm pretty sure Skeleton Crew takes place during this roughly the same time period of the Mandalorian.
Okay.
Even having said that, like what story do you come up with for a group of kids during this time? You know what I mean? And like, what's the tone of the show going to be? But to answer your question about like directors, I mean, no, it doesn't really matter to me. I like that the Mandalorian has been like different directors pretty much every episode. A select few directors have done multiple episodes within the 3 seasons of the Mandalorian, but I like that it's not just one person directing the entire thing. But I honestly don't really have an opinion on Skeleton Crew until we get like more information about like, okay, what's the story going to be about? You know, what are the characters going to be? It's definitely like mid on my interest list.
Yeah, no, I'm there with you. The Daniels, David Lowery, that's very exciting stuff for me. And we'll see where it goes. I just really want to know where it takes place, when it takes place, and why does it matter? You know?
Yeah.
Biggest question for me from Skeleton Crew.
And it's also very interesting to know. Like, I do think that's an interesting group of like, a pool of directors that are going to have like their hands on the Skeleton Crew or just a Star Wars project. I also think it's very funny but fitting that there's so many directors in like post sequel trilogy that want their hands on Star Wars or like that want to be in Star Wars or agree to be in Star Wars. But it makes sense. You know, it's like Star Wars is probably the biggest franchise in the world.
It is so it's a promotion for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Now I'm chasing a bag.
But we don't want bag chasers, man. We don't want bag chasers primarily. We want committed fans running the fucking show. Bag chasers secondarily.
I will say though, like that you bring up a good point. It's like I'm curious as to who are the directors that the studio reaches out to because they're like, hey, I think you're a good fit, because that definitely happens.
Right.
And then there are folks that could potentially be like, hey, like I want to be part of Star Wars, but I feel like it's a studio reaching out to directors rather than the other way around. It's like, hey, like I've seen your work. Like I think your style fits. Would you like to be involved? I'll do a little digging and figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out. But all I got to say is like, because the thought that I have when you ask that question is, so even if there's like some directors, writers, you know, cinematographers out there that aren't necessarily super into Star Wars, like as a person, how creative are their minds? Or like, how quickly can they just like snap and just like dive into a world that they haven't necessarily dove that deep in and just be like, okay, I get it. Here's where we're going with it. Or do they not have that capability?
No, that's true. But I would also say that I think everybody that has ever been involved in Star Wars is a fan.
Is a fan.
In some capacity, you know?
100%.
Like, I think that, like, everybody came up and grew up as, like, whatever generation they're from, you know? Some of the older directors could have been fans of like the original trilogy. Some other directors could be like younger, like us, that grew up on the prequel trilogy. Like they come from all over. It's interesting, and I'm excited to see what happens in the future.
Yeah, who else comes on to the Star Wars train? Yeah,
it's almost like you have to know the lore to a certain extent to get hired. Like I don't think they would just. I mean, maybe they would. Like just hire somebody just because they have like a crazy track record with like other movies, you know what I mean? But like some of these people that they're hiring, like the Daniels, like the Everything Everywhere All at Once guys, I bet these guys are fucking Star Wars nerds for sure.
I bet.
Yeah, no, there are some people that for sure fit the bill, and then like this would never. I don't think this would ever happen in a million years. Maybe somewhere out in the multiverse type shit, but if they tried reaching out to like Martin Scorsese or some shit to like make a Star Wars movie or a Star Wars show, like I wouldn't trust him for that, you know? Like maybe if he like tried making like some deep rated R Star Wars crime shit, then like maybe, but Like I'm not gonna like Martin Scorsese. Like if I were in charge of Star Wars, I'm not reaching out to Scorsese to be like, hey, do you want to make some Star Wars shit? Like, for one, I'm pretty sure he would say no. Two, I'm like, I don't want this guy to begin with.
It's not the right style. It's not the right style. And all
Yeah.
I'm gonna say is, if you're interviewing people to come on to the Star Wars project, I ask all of them one question. I'd just be like, who's Anakin Skywalker's dad? And if you don't know, then you don't fucking know. You don't belong in this fucking project, you know?
Anyways, let's talk about the latest episode of The Mandalorian, Chapter 21, The Pirate, directed by Peter Ramsey. This was quite the episode. I'll just start us off with that. Little random fact. I think we're done with all trailer shots. Like from all trailers that we've gotten for Mandalorian season 3, I think this wrapped it up, because there were a couple of shots from some Mando trailers that I had seen that I was like, okay, we haven't seen this yet. I feel like the final two were of like, it was like a group of Mandalorians when they were liberating Navarro. We got those in this. 3 episodes left. I don't think there's been anything else, and that's very exciting. Anyways, so let me just start us off with some brief thoughts real quick. This season has really been throwing me for a loop, and not really in a bad way. I'm just kind of confused as to like which story they're wanting to tell here. Mostly because like I've said this in previous pods before. I thought this season was mostly going to be about Din Djarin and the Mandalorians, and him kind of like rising up to be the leader of Mandalore. Like, you know, they handled like the whole thing of him visiting Mandalore and being redeemed. They handled that in one episode. Just like a lot of the things I was expecting of this season, they handled in like one episode within like a few minutes. And just given what happened in previous seasons and like Boba Fett, I'm just not really sure if the execution is really all there, or if maybe just like my expectations are just like kind of like, given what happened in this episode and knowing that there are only 3 episodes left, I'm just kind of like, how do you like wrap this up in a satisfying way? Which I think they will do, but I'm just a little skeptical. It's exciting though, just the story structure, and I think we kind of briefly chatted about this in the last 2 pods, which is like interesting just because like, you know, the first 2 episodes were focusing on the Mandos themselves, but then you follow up with like this thing where you try to expand the world a little bit. The story structure is just kind of everywhere for me. But I will start off with saying this, is that like, if this episode kind of felt like it was like a classic episode from season 1 or 2, where it just kind of felt like, hey, I need you to do this thing for me, Mando. You know, it kind of felt like one of those like random adventure episodes with like the final 10 or 15 minutes or so actually propelling the story forward. But before we get into specifics, did you have any like general thoughts on like the storytelling or anything like that?
I definitely hear what you're saying when you're coming to like the scatteredness of all these different stories that we've been told and haven't been finished yet, or have been finished throughout the entire Mandalorian series. You also can't forget that the stories were split like in season 1. You have a show that's called The Mandalorian, and then you get introduced to a Force-sensitive child like in the very beginning of the entire series. Like that's kind of like, it's messing with your expectations a little bit. There's definitely some divergence there, but I kind of have to disagree with you a little bit in terms of, if you're talking strictly The Mandalorian, yes, the stories are a little bit all over the place, but propelling forward, I think we're in a perfect place. And I think with 3 episodes left, they could do a lot with 3 episodes to kind of wrap stories up, maybe just finish off the Mandalorian, maybe not necessarily like the Mandalorians, but Din Djarin, just maybe finish him off, and just kind of progress through some different story arcs. That's
what
like,
you've
right,
wanted
that's
the whole
happening.
season.
Yes, this is what I fucking want, man. Am I wrong for thinking that? Because possibilities of where it's going as we talk about the episode.
As far as just like the season in general. Honestly, it's kind of like meta in a way where, and this is, I feel like this has always been true with this show, is that each episode, the title of the episode has always served a double meaning. Like the apostate, like who are you talking about? You can be talking about Din Djarin, or you could be talking about Bo-Katan. And I feel like this is this season 3 has double meaning to it in itself, because like the Mandalorian could have been Din Djarin, but it honestly feels like it's talking about Bo-Katan here. It's almost like she is kind of the main protagonist, whereas Din Djarin's kind of on the side. So it's kind of like, you know, what you've been talking about ever since we've been doing these recaps. But anywho, episode starts off. We're back on Navarro. The pirates are back. They're back for sweet revenge. They literally pull up to Navarro and they're just clapping the planet. So that's how it starts off. And then High Magistrate Grief Karga like sends out a message for help. And this is where it starts to, we need Mando to do something. We need either Mando or the Mandalorians to do something, you know, like we need a favor for the guy. But yeah, so it starts that, and then we move on, and we cut to some islands where we see a rebel base, and Captain Carson Teva, or Captain Teva, he returns, and we get the most insane cameo. Just absolutely wild. I'm not gonna lie to you. When I first saw this cameo, I just thought it was like I had the same reaction to when I saw the Anzellans. I was like, oh, it's just another it's another one of Zeb's race. And then it didn't occur to me that it was actually him until I heard the voice. For one, the voice, I was like, oh, that's got to be him. And then I had to wait till the credits to see that's like, oh, like Zeb, and then voiced by this person, like in the actual credits. But he looks great. Zeb looks really good as a CGI rendered character, and it's probably one of the best CGI rendered characters that I've ever seen in Star Wars. And like, I honestly feel like it would have been tricky if they tried doing them practical, because they did what's his name, who's the blue guy, the blue bounty hunter.
Oh my god, fucking Cad Bane.
Cad Bane. They did him practical, and he looked fine, you know, but he didn't need to be like, there aren't like extra details, like the look of him is not that complicated, you know. So they did that practical, which was great. But Zeb looked, he was good. He looked real good, and I just love the fact that they keep laying the groundwork. You know, there's gonna be like, either by the season finale or by Ahsoka, we're gonna get like a shot with every surviving Rebels character, and it's gonna be awesome. I would like for you to give us a quick Zeb 101. Who is Zeb Aurelios? Well, here, give me your quick reaction when you saw him, and then give us a Zeb 101.
I had a huge nerdgasm in my pants. I didn't even question when I saw him. Even before I heard the voice, I was like, nope, that's Zeb. That is 100% Zeb. I didn't question it at all. There's people still out there on the internet like, is that Zeb? I'm like, dude, has anybody ever that's like, oh, is that Zeb? Like, have we ever seen a Lasat on screen before? Nobody ever has. Like, why would you even question that that's Zeb? And during the time period and like all the theories, like what? Like, come on, man. Question if that's Zeb. But you know, the confirmation with the credits, and obviously I heard the voice. I'm like, yeah, that's fucking Zeb. Like 100%. The first word he spoke, that's the same fucking voice actor.
And I'll tell you this real quick too.
Phoenix Squadron, it's all coming. The cameo of Zeb, just, I mean, anybody listening to the pod, Joe, you know, this is laying the groundwork for, I mean, maybe not in this season of The Mandalorian. Maybe we get one more cameo that's leading towards Ahsoka. But just the fact that they've confirmed, okay, we see it on screen now. Here is the Rebel Cell, Ghost Crew, Phoenix Squadron. We're almost there. We're getting there. But it was amazing. And the CGI, just to comment on the CGI, amazing. I agree with it. The only part of the CGI that I didn't like, the eyes for some reason. Like, his eyes kind of creep me out. I don't know why, but you know what? He's an alien. He's a Lasat. It's a species that we haven't really defined that
We've
much.
never
in,
seen that
Star Wars.
species.
Not in live action. Not in live action.
No way.
Only in animated shows.
Yeah, no,
So
it does look a little odd. It translates strange.
Sure, like he's speaking basic or English for that matter, and like, you know, the whole lip movement and all that. Like, I don't knock that at all. Like,
I think it looked fine.
It looked fine, but I feel like when I was watching it, I was like, I feel like there's people that are like hyper focusing on this, like fixating on this, and are just like, lips move this way, blah blah blah. But anyways,
Zeb 101, let's do it.
These are the basics of what I know. He is a Lasat. Their home planet is Lyrasan. He's the captain of the honor guard of the Lasats, which is pretty much the highest, as far as I know, the highest rank amongst their quote-unquote military. Their homeworld got destroyed by the Empire. And between then and when we see him in Rebels, he thought he was the only remaining Lasat. Not to move too far forward into Rebels, but there are some scenes where, you know, he has, you know, a melee fight with, you know, an Imperial officer or an ISB officer, and he has to pretty much lay down his weapon and give it to the Imperial officer, and that's like the basics of Zeb. And well, if you haven't seen Rebels, Ghost Crew picks Zeb up because he's in this kind of lost headspace. I just watched all of my people die. Like, where do I go? Ghost Crew picks him up, finds him, and yeah.
Very cool.
I just don't want to spoil like Rebels things. Like,
I might spoil like two things in a second here. Anywho, all right, let's move on a little bit. So one more question before we move on from Zeb. How do you feel about Zeb being a New Republic pilot post Rebels? Do you think it makes sense or?
No, I think it makes sense because I'm thinking about the timeline between points in time between the last time we saw Zeb in Rebels, which would pretty much be the last episode of Rebels, which would be pretty much
pre-Death Star. That's fucking
till now, where this is like 15 ABY, so after the Battle of Yavin. Like, that's a long fucking time. I think in Rebels, like the entire show, like Zeb has for sure shown that he is a rebel at heart. He's found a family within definitely Phoenix Squadron. He feels like he's actually has a new home and he has a new family. But what happens between that point, like the last episode of Rebels, and now it's like what else do you do? Like that's my whole thought process. It's like, what else do you do? And I think with the Adelphi squad is perfect for him, because especially what you see with Captain Teva here is perfect, because Captain Teva's he's not so down for the New Republic. He's still in his rebellion ways, and I guarantee you Zeb still has that same mentality here. Like, they're on this island, just, you know, fucking spotchka, whatever, just, you know, cranking it back, like, you know, former vets, you know.
It's like doing a job.
Just doing the job. I think it's perfect for him. I don't know how else you would write him into the story or like make the cameo. To be honest, and that's just me though.
Yeah, no, it's super cool to see Zeb back. Captain Teva being mixed up with Captain Teva definitely makes a lot of sense. Kind of, we'll talk about this later, but it just makes me think about how the future of maybe a certain scrapped Star Wars show will make its way back. Anywho, after this island scene, we go back to Coruscant, back to the New Republic, where Captain Teva is asking for assistance for Navarro. Like, Kane shows up, and nice little conversation here, nice little back and forth. Like, Kane pretty much convinces the Colonel, because Captain Teva was about to convince him. It's like, hey, this planet needs help. Navarro needs help. Then, like, Kane's like, nah, like, they're not part of the New Republic. Tim Meadows, that's the actor's name. That's the big celebrity cameo here. Just fucking insane. Because like we literally texted each other. It's like, hey, like the big cameo that we saw was literally Tim Meadows from fucking Walk Hard. That's where I know him from, Walk Hard. He ends up siding with Elia Kane, and we briefly brought this up like a couple pods ago, but this is literally the first beginnings of the First Order. In my mind, like there's the New Republic, and then Captain Teva is like the early beginnings of the Resistance. When they were showing up in The Force Awakens, it didn't seem like the New Republic and the Resistance were kind of like working hand in hand together. You know, they just kind of pulled up whenever they felt like somebody needed help. But anyways, did you have any thoughts on this scene here?
I think I'm in complete denial that the way the story's going is actually leading to the First Order. I don't want it, man. I don't fucking want it at all. Like, I don't need this to be filled in my Star Wars.
It's gonna happen, man. Like, I mean, that's what they did with fucking that was like the whole thing about the Clone Wars and Rebels. That was it for the prequel trilogy. It's the same shit.
I'll digest that. But yes, this scene, fucking G68, whatever the fuck her name is, like, she's a great actress. I like her acting, but she's brainwashed 100%. 100%. She went through the same brainwashing that fucking Dr. Parching did.
I don't even think she's brainwashed. I just think she's just like, she's always an Imperial cat, you know? And she's just Trumper. Good at conning everybody.
She's literally a Trumper in Star Wars, dude.
Yo.
She's new Gina Carano.
No, but like, but her character, not in real life. Her character
not
is
real life. It's like she's like a sworn, just like
she's rise for the Emperor. You got to respect it.
I don't like her character at all.
I think that's just good writing, you know.
No, it's great writing. No, don't get me wrong, dude. Like she's
fooling everybody.
Like Teva just wants to do the actual, like, pretty much the Jedi way. Like, if we have the ability to help, let's fucking help them. Let's do it. Nope. Sorry. Bureaucracy, corruption, pisses me off. This whole scene, like, really grinding my gears. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, it just showed you how much the New Republic is fucking garbage.
it's almost worse than the Empire. I'm not gonna lie. At least the Empire had their shit straight.
Yeah, the New Republic sucks.
It's crazy how this one tiny scene just like fired me up so much.
Anyways, after this scene, we go back to Lake Powell.
Yes,
Captain Teva recruits the Mandalorians since the New Republic ain't shit, and the Mandalorians agree. You know, this is where I know that they're building up the Resistance. Okay, they want the Resistance to be like a part of the Star Wars universe, because I don't know if you remember from the sequel trilogy, but like the music cues, the theme that plays when like Captain Teva is flying away, that's the Resistance theme from the sequel trilogy. It's like the dun 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 dun. You know,
I mean, there's been like a couple like tunes that had like the first couple like chords of other themes, but they kind of like switched off.
So yeah, the Resistance theme is there. It's a good theme. I like it a lot. But then we get into this convo with, or this conversation with Din Djarin making his case as to why they should liberate Navarro. He makes a damn good point. He's talking about how, like, hey, if we fight, then we would get some land. That sounds like a pretty good deal to me. But then where I was almost thrown off was when fucking Paz Vizsla got the fucking hammer. And I was like, all right, this motherfucker is about to start speaking some bullshit. And then
some garbage.
It did sound like he was speaking some bullshit at first, but then out of nowhere, this dude was like, "We've lived in the shadows." Well, no, he didn't say this exactly, but he was pretty much saying like, "We've lived in the shadows for too long. Our children need to like thrive in the sunlight." I'm like, "Yo, let's go." Am I finally like Clan Vizsla right now? And I'm just not sure if I was really Clan Vizsla, but it's like, hey, it's time to fight for a brighter future. And I'm like, that's so sick. But do you have any thoughts on these scenes here?
Just the whole beginning of the scene of Teva coming in with the fucking X-Wing, and how wait, he just found the covert? How did he do that? And
R5.
R5's a vet.
He was in the shit since New Hope, dude. He's been around for a long ass time.
I swear he was on the same ship as fucking when Darth Vader was slashing everybody down. I swear to God. Probably not. But I love this whole fucking scene, man. The whole him just like he knows. Like Teva knows the second he lands, and I love seeing the X-Wing up close again and the sounds and like the audio effects. But when he lands, like he knows, like, I shouldn't be here. But you know what? Like, I have a very strong purpose to be here. It's me, it's Captain Teva of Adelphi Squadron, and there's nobody there. But then like the shot goes up, and it's like there's two snipers on the fucking, like, on the roof, essentially. And you're like, oh shit, man. What is Teva getting himself into? And I wonder why they call him Blue Boy.
I am curious too, because like fucking Zeb wore like a blue.
Yeah, like the blue coloration.
Like, why blue? You know?
I mean, maybe blue is Adelphi, but for some reason, Teva was wearing like the classic orange and white Rebellion jumpsuit. But I love this. I thought when Teva pretty much says, Grief Karga's in trouble, Mando, what are you going to do about it? I thought there was going to be some more like resistance from the Mandalorians of like, don't talk to this guy. But it progressed, and I was like, all right, okay. Keep moving forward. That whole scene around the campfire, the fire in the cave. I love both speeches. Din Djarin's speech was amazing. It summarized his whole deal with Navarro in like 10 seconds. Paz comes up. You think he's just going to say some whack shit and say, fuck Din Djarin. Nope. He just goes, the question we should be asking ourselves is why? Big pause. Because we're Mandalorians. I think everybody watching this was just like, this is fucking awesome. I love this. It's like a 11 out of 10 scene for me.
It was good stuff. It was nice to see him finally come around. It's just, not something I was really expecting, but it works.
Nobody was expecting. It's just like a hint of what's to come for the Mandalorians.
Anyways, moving on. Then we go back to Navarro. The fighting begins. Loved seeing Mandalorians fight as a unit after getting clapped all season long. Just finally showing how they are the fiercest warriors in the galaxy. That was fucking great. This is where, like, I was like, I didn't really fall off the episode, but I was just like, yeah, no, I know what's going to happen. You know, there's no way the Mandalorians lose. I will say that, you know, the best scenes from this sequence are just watching Bo-Katan and Mando kind of fly through and just pick everybody off. It's some of the best aerial dogfights that you've ever seen in Star Wars, especially
so good.
Mando. Yeah, watching Mando go through and just pick all of these pirates off. It's like, he's above you, now he's below you. It's like, okay, you know, it's just exciting to see. Like this whole thing with Din and Bo-Katan and all the Mandalorians just liberating Navarro. It's a really nice callback, or like arc, or whatever you want to call it, to season 1. Where, you know, the Mandalorians are fighting against the people in Navarro, or they're fighting against all the bounty hunters, because Din was like, you know, it was the episode called The Sin in season 1 where like Din is trying to rescue Grogu, and then all the Mandalorians come to back him up. You know, it's like thinking about that episode and this episode, it's like full circle type shit.
Yeah, I mean that's what it comes back to. And it's also a little bit ironic because Mando said it in his speech in the cave. Grief Karga's hunters, they were not the reason for our demise. But Din Djarin is also the reason that all the hunters got caught. He's the one who provoked all of it. Especially the drop scene where all the Mandalorians are in Bo-Katan's ship.
Yeah.
And they're like, first team, go.
That's another scene that we kind of like, that we kind of breezed over. And I mean, this will kind of connect to what we'll talk about in a second, but like the fact that Bo-Katan is just kind of like leading this group of Mandalorians, you know, it just comes naturally to her. Like, and all the Mandalorians are just so like willing to, it's almost like they've been waiting for this type of leadership. You know, just seeing them all in action, it's just like, it's kind of almost like the fight that the Mandalorians have been waiting for, and the fight that Bo-Katan has been waiting for. And honestly, everybody, like all of them, everyone in the covert is just like, oh yeah, this is it. You know,
what have we been training for? Like, why are we hiding? Like, let's go.
Like, let's fucking do it. But anyways, after they win, moving on, they win. You know, no surprise there.
Armor,
but
success.
The armor. Oh yeah, the armor. Like there's one scene where these fools, like a Trandoshan gets on a crazy turret, and then the armor is out here like no gun, just wiping fools out with her little pliers and the fucking Beskar hammer.
Weapons of the Forge.
Fucking crazy. Like, can we get the armor or a gun? Like, come on. Anyways, after they liberate the planet, Paz is like, goes up to Bo-Katan, it's like, hey, Armor wants to chat with you. And then she's like, remove your helmet. I'm like, whoa. What are you talking about? Remove your helmet. And, but no, I was seriously like, oh, what? And I was almost like, it had to be significant because they go back to, like, they're back in Navarre and they go back to the original Forge from season 1. And that's pretty cool. And they're talking about how, like, we got the original Forge from season 1, but they're talking about, like, an even greater Forge that was on Mandalore. But anyways, I was like thinking like, oh, is the Armor about to remove her helmet as well? Like, what's happening here? But yeah, so before moving on anymore, did you have any thoughts on this scene here?
Heavy scene, man.
It's
thought-provoking.
Yeah.
It's thought-provoking. Did I think the Armor was going to take off her helmet? Yes. 100%. 1,000%. And I was like, are we actually going to find out who the Armor actually is? You know, all these thoughts racing like, oh, who is she? I do think she's also a Mandalorian. Like, I think she even has, like, you know, the spikes on her helmet. Like, definitely could be. I almost say she is. But I don't, like, I think of all, like, the character reveals that we're going to get. I don't think she'll reveal herself or, like, the show will reveal her. If they do, I do actually think it'll be a Mandalorian, and she'll go through like this monologue that explains exactly where she was, what her relationship with Bo-Katan is, and Bo-Katan will just have this like crazy, like tear-jerking scene where, you know, she thought that the Armor was dead, like whoever's playing the Armor was dead. If they don't go that route, I think the Armor is just more of like, she's all part of the creed and like whatnot, but she was started out as pretty much like a religious zealot. Here are the rules. Like, if you don't play by these, then you're not part of the creed. But her eyes get opened. That happens to religious people in real life. I think I love this change of faith, so to speak. I love that whole, we're opening ourselves up to the world now. Like, we're not living in secrecy anymore. We have a home. Like, we don't have our actual home, but we have a home. And I think that Bo-Katan, when she's tasked pretty much by the Armor to go out and find, you know, Mandalorians in exile. Clan Ren, yep, that'd be dope. But I don't think it's going to be Clan Ren. I think it's just going to be Sabine. Because I don't know what's going on with Clan Ren right now. It's just going to be Sabine. Clan Ren could all be dead for all we know. I hope not, because Ursa Ren is fucking sick. Tristan's kind of a little bitch. I think it'll be a run-in with Sabine. But the whole appointment of her as in Bo-Katan being the one to lead Mandalore again, I think it's perfect. She already led Mandalore once. She has perfect skills with the Darksaber. She's worthy of the Darksaber. It just makes sense to me. And I think it's like, it could be closed off like at the end of season 3. Bo-Katan's story, Mando's story, like, could just be done. We'll see.
Well, we think the episode ends here. At least I thought the episode was going to end here. But pretty much the Armor sends Bo-Katan off on her mission to reunite the other clans, and that it's time to retake Mandalore. I mean, how do you even retake Mandalore, like, at this point? This is my only thing. It's like, how do you retake it? Like, you just need to pull up and you have it. You know? Like, the planet's literally yours.
That's a good point, because, and this is all I'll say, I don't think she's saying retake Mandalore as in the planet. I think she's saying retake Mandalore as in the culture. Like, we're all in hiding. We're all broken. But if they're actually going back to Mandalore, like all the Mandalorians, that'd be fucking sick.
Okay, but I have a question for you later. But we move on from here. Captain Teva, he closes out the episode, searching for the shuttle that was supposed to be transporting Moff Gideon. And what do you know? It's destroyed and someone broke him out. And as Captain Teva observes the ship, he notices that there's some like Beskar remnants or something like that. And he is led to assume that Mandalorians broke him out. I have a few theories. I don't know if you have some yourself, but I have a few. First one that I'm not really a fan of is that someone made it look like the Mandalorians broke Moff Gideon out by just leaving Beskar remnants behind. I'm just like, no, I'm not really behind that. I think that's a little lazy. Or there are Mandalorians out there that actually broke him out, and maybe it was actually just because, like, Moff Gideon has, he destroyed Mandalore, and maybe the armor and maybe even Paz Vizsla were possibly up to this, and they're holding him somewhere. Mostly because, like, and this is where I'm like overanalyzing, but one of the, like, how every episode starts out as like, hey, like previously on The Mandalorian, like one of the things that they showed was Paz talking about like, oh, like death would have been a suitable punishment for Moff Gideon. It's like, oh, he should have been dead. So I can see that. The armor keeping it a secret that, like, she sent Paz Vizsla and maybe a couple of other Mandalorians to capture Moff Gideon and keep him for themselves. Or this is what Bo-Katan's other Mandalorians that were under her have been up to. Like, Bo-Katan's Mandalorians went to go capture Moff Gideon, and they're holding him somewhere because how bad she wanted Moff Gideon at the end of the season too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just wondering, like, where is your head at with all this? Like, do you think they're just trying to frame the Mandalorians to, like, pit them against, like, the New Republic? It's because that's kind of what you assume when Captain Teva kind of pulls up on the ship. Is like, oh, this was Mandalorians. It's either they planted evidence or it's like, like, what do you think?
I'll just say this. I think the ending was, I was hoping for a bigger reveal at the very end there. I'm just going to say that. I thought it was going to be something more grand. I'm hoping that it was more like we saw the Chimera symbol, like it was Thrawn, like he extracted Moff Gideon, because you heard it from Captain Teva's voice when he was on Coruscant. These are not isolated incidences. There's something bigger going on out there, but that totally juxtaposes like the whole moving forward with the First Order. I'm calling it bullshit because it's probably happening, but it's bullshit. No, I think it's a setup for sure. It's a setup by who? I don't know. But
are there Mandalorians have there ever been Mandalorians under Thrawn?
Not that I know. Not in the books. Okay. I mean, somebody who's as smart as Moff Gideon, who had a shit ton of Beskar alloy under his wing, I mean, he could easily just frame the Mandalorians. I think it could be as simple as that. Or, sure, I can see your theory about Bo-Katan's, like, her immediate crew. We haven't seen them since season 2. I can see them just being vengeful, spiteful, like, where the fuck's Bo-Katan? Where the fuck's Moff Gideon? Like, we're gonna go fucking kill Moff Gideon. I could also see Sabine just maybe watching everything that's going on with the Mandalorians right now from, like, a bird's eye view. I don't know how she's doing it, but it could happen. And she left a mistake. Like, she made a mistake. She left a thumbprint, so to speak, with the Beskar alloy. But nonetheless, I think the ending to this was, like, that final scene, it was good. Just like the X-Wing just drifting in slowly, like with
when I saw the drifting X-Wing, I thought Captain Teva was dead. I thought he was just drifting in his ship. I was like, no way.
That, and also it's like reminiscent of, like, how many times do you see an ISD, an Imperial Star Destroyer, just like slowly drifting and the light just slowly reveals it. It was a little reminiscent of that.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, no, that's the end of the episode. But I'm curious, though. Do you think we'll get a potential live-action Mando Civil War for Mandalore? Do you think we're going to get, like, 2 different factions of Mandalorians fighting for Mandalore?
A second Mandalorian Civil War?
A second Mandalorian Civil War. Mostly because, like, what if Moff Gideon does have Mandalorians on his side?
Like Gar Saxon in the later...
Like Gar Saxon type cats. Exactly.
I think it's definitely possible.
Would you like to see it, though?
Not fully fleshed out. Like, only
like,
if it's...
Could you see this for, like, a season 4?
If it's strictly season 4 Mandalorian, like, and that's all that season 4 is about, I'm there. I'm there.
Yeah. And but this could be... that's, like, the last season.
Yeah. And then but season 3 is tailing off into Ahsoka. Season 4 Mandalorian, it's just strictly balls out fucking Mandalorians. Yes. I'm there.
I would like to see a Mandalorian Civil War as well. Even though, like, you'd like to see the Mandalorians united as one, but if Rebels has taught us anything, it's that they don't all get along.
Nope.
Not even close. But yeah, so that's cool. But damn, that's it. Did you have any final thoughts on this episode? I thought besides the score, I thought it was pretty great. It was a fun, enjoyable episode. I think I give it like a 4 out of 5.
I mean, this is 5 out of 5 for the theorizing side of me.
Okay,
like this is,
but just simply for what you got,
for what you get, like a 4.7. It's still it's
nice.
Still like at face value, a fucking great episode. Definitely the best episode so far.
It was solid for sure. I just hope like from this episode till the season finale, they just tell like a linear story. If they want to return to the Dr. Pershing stuff, just save it for the finale and like make it like the final like 10 minutes or something. I don't know. It's like don't spend the next episode talking about. I mean, they could easily spend it by the time I release this pod, but the pacing is off for this season. I'll say that much. But yeah, no, that's it for episode 119. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave it on Spotify or Apple. Leave us at 5 stars. We really appreciate it. Be sure to follow us on all socials. Links are in the description. We will catch you guys in episode 120. Holy shit. Anyways, thanks for listening, and we will catch you guys next time. So, peace.
Peace.